Thursday, she called it a biography of the David Davis
It's
Mansion.
a book I've written about the Davis Mansion, and it's a history commemorating 150 years of the house. And in 2022, it marked the end of the construction of a 150-year period of since the mansion was built.
Mm-hmm.
And the foundation board of the mansion decided that they wanted to commemorate that history, especially in the more recent years. Nobody had ever written anything about that. And so they asked me, as the former site manager, you're sitting around, you have nothing to do. You can crank a book out, can't you? And I was delighted to have the opportunity. So it's a sort of biography of the house, as you will, but it has so much in it that I think people have not heard before. And as I was talking to you earlier, I called it Secrets of the David Davis Mansion because not only are these things that many people might not have heard, but they were secrets to me too as I was writing the book. So it's covering the history of the house, but it's filled with rich stories about the people who lived in that house, and the things that they did haven't really been talked about before, and they're fun stories.
Mm-hmm.
So this program that we're going to have on Sunday, however, is going to be a little bit different, slightly, from what I've said before in McLean County, because I want to talk about the relationship between Clifton Moore of the Homestead, the
Mm-hmm.
DeWitt County Museum, and David Davis, their friendship, and even a friendship that included some wonderful things that Clifton Moore did after David Davis's death for David Davis. It's going to be about this book, but it's going to be about more.
For Young, the way C.H. Moore helped preserve the legacy of David Davis after his passing was something she was surprised to learn about. She explains Moore took time to care for his wife and help his son after his passing.
I think what stands out to me in a lot of the research I've been doing more recently is how close Clifton Moore and David Davis were. I had never paid much attention to birth and death dates for C.H. Moore, but he was born just 2 years after David Davis. But Davis died nearly 20 years before Clifton Moore did. So Moore spans a huge period of time that covers Davis's life here in McLean County and Moore's life in DeWitt County. But also, what I hadn't realized is what kind of influential role Clifton Moore, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this on Sunday, Clifton Moore played in Davis's life after Davis's death. So I'm going to start with Davis's death in this segment you and I are discussing, and I'm going to say that I'm going to reveal something that David Davis bequeathed to Clifton Moore in his will. And that intrigued me. So I thought about, well, let me look more into the records, the archival records, about what Moore might have done with regard to Davis after Davis was gone, because, Moore lives almost 20 years longer. And it turns out that Moore played a very influential role in the life of Davis's son, George P. Davis. And George P. Davis is a minor figure in history now, but he played a huge role in preserving the David Davis Mansion.
The presentation Sunday, set for 2 p.m. in the carriage barn of the Homestead, will be a PowerPoint presentation, but Young stresses this isn't your typical PowerPoint presentation.
People call it a PowerPoint presentation, and the minute you say PowerPoint, your audience members start dozing off. A bunch of words. No, it's actually illustrations, photographs, images, colorful. It is what we used to call a slide presentation, and it's just really, I think, going to be entertaining in that sense. A lot of images that the audience will not have had. They get to interact with me I'm asking them questions, we play a few games, and I'm asking them to participate in the games. I'm even asking them, what are they going to win? So it's a very interactive kind of program. And then, of course, there'll be time for questions at the end. But I'm talking about this house, but illustrating it constantly so that you can use your imagination as I talk, but you also have a lot of things to look at to engage the mind. So it's a very interactive presentation. I hope that not too many people doze off.
The presentation with Dr. Marcia Young again begins at 2 p.m. Sunday at the C.H. Moore Homestead. A leading light of health and wellness is dialing in on maintaining vitality as we age. Dr. Jim Lavelle is the author of Cracking the Metabolic Code and the clinical director of the Pro Football Hall of Fame Performance Health Program. On the WHOW Morning Show Thursday, he told regional radio one of the top things we can do is exercise, and that can be as simple as 20 to 50 minutes of walking a day.
So the first thing is with exercise, for the majority of people, there's this misconception that, I've got to really just, I can't go in the gym. I'm not going to lift weights. I don't like that. Well, the thing we know is that even if you walk 21 minutes a day, 21 minutes a day, it will dramatically reduce the risk of diabetes and heart disease. And now, if you want to really be a champion, I got to really get after it. If you're able to walk 50 minutes 6 days a week, you would be really in a great position for helping your chemistry to maintain your lean body weight, help you to keep your blood sugar down, keep your blood vessels, really flexible. The old term we used to hear is what? Hardening of the arteries, right? Well, all that is that as you get older and you're under stress and your blood sugars are going up, your blood vessels get more stiff because of the chronic inflammation that's being released in your body. So exercise, movement is so important. Get a stationary bike if you have to. Plop it. If you don't want to miss your TV show, plop the dang exercise bike right in front of your TV, whatever it takes. Nothing wrong with that. I'm like, look, if that's the way you'll get it done, do it that way. I'm kind of a guy, I was in the gym already this morning. I have a gym in my garage, and I walked outside in the morning, and I did my treadmill, did my bike, lifted some weights, and but that's a habit that I started to create actually when I was very young, and stuck with it pretty good over all these years. But it does take having a habit.
According to Dr. Lavelle, nutrition is also very important as we age. Getting enough good quality food is very important. He says you want to avoid foods that are going to bring down your energy and focus on those foods that make you feel good.
I think one of the biggest issues in terms of food is that people don't look at food. They go, I got to go on a diet, right? And whenever you hear the word diet, you think, I'm taking things away from me. Right? I can't have this. I can't have that. And actually, it's kind of true. No, you can't have pizza and nachos and chicken wings. But the reality is, you look around and you look at how much caffeine is being taken in by people.
Mm-hmm.
If you go into if you remember back when Red Bull first came out, it was the only thing. If you walked into a gas station, there'd be a Red Bull there for caffeinated drink. I regularly do caffeine intake queries on people because you take in a lot of caffeine, and that once again, that's stimulating your sympathetic nervous system. There's a reason why most people are feeling fatigued. There's a reason for that, and it's because basically they're not able to sustain their energy. So if you start to get sleep at night, if you start to, watch your food intake, one of the big things that happen, why people have that midday energy crash, I call it the 2 o'clock drop, right? And, you talk to people, so many people are like, I got to get my Starbucks triple latte, double calf, and I'm going to try to see if I can find some caffeine sprinkles. I gotta have it because I'm crashing at 2 o'clock. Well, a lot of times people are eating real high carb lunches. They're getting a lot of bread, right? Or they're eating a big bowl of rice, a nice big bowl of rice. And that's going to throw off your blood sugar, and it's going to drop. Your blood sugar is going to drop because you're going to release a lot of insulin. Blood sugar drops out, and all of a sudden you're 2 o'clock and your head's hitting the desk. You can't keep yourself up. And so understanding about, how do I eat so that I feel good is the way I try to get people to understand, quote, a diet. Like, what do you eat that makes you feel good?
Dr. Lavelle indicates there are plenty of models of healthy eating across the world where people are active and energetic as they age. He notes it requires discipline and dedication, but it is worth it.
And then there's the category of, what do I eat because it's pure joy and I like to have a dessert once in a while? I'm at this great restaurant and I'm going to have a treat meal, and fantastic. But we forget, in general, people eat too much, they eat too often, they eat too late, they don't get enough sleep, and they don't exercise. And so, when you're talking about longevity, so there's these blue zones in the world where the biggest populations of people that live to 100, right? So Sardinia, Icarus in Greece, in Japan, or in Korea, South Korea, Okinawa. There's different areas, right? And they all have one thing in common. People eat more vegetables. They eat smaller portions of protein. And I'm not anti-protein. I mean, I think people should eat protein, but they eat smaller portions of protein. We don't need to eat 24-ounce steaks. We don't even need to eat 16-ounce steaks, right? You can have an 8-ounce portion or even a 6-ounce portion. And in addition to that, they're moving. You got an 80-year-old walking up 400 steps during the course of the day in Sardinia, and they're still active and moving. And the other thing is they don't work 7-day work weeks. They still have lunch. They still sit and relax and have a nice dinner. Family's still important. And those folks, they don't have any of the whiz-bang stuff we got here, taking Tibetan goji berries and resveratrol and CoQ10. They're just out there eating good food and moving and not letting stress overcome their life. So that's the biggest thing that people should try to get some sort of handle on in their life.
Dr. Lavelle encourages finding things to be grateful for that will improve your mental health, and notes getting exercise also helps with that. 19 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Friday. Plenty more to get to coming your way on the WHOW Morning Show.
Looking for a new Silverado? This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. Yes, we finally have new Silverado inventory. We have Silverados in 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s with several trim levels. Custom, LT, RST, LTZ, and yes, high countries. This month, get an extra down payment assistance on all Silverados. Baum Chevrolet Buick. We have inventory. BaumChevyBuick.com. Right from the start.
News time is 20 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Friday. I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks this morning for this expanded local newscast. Dry conditions are prevailing throughout most of Illinois. A firsthand account comes from corn and soybean producer Ryan Frieders in the northern part of the state.
We were blessed with a little bit of rain earlier in the season, so the crops all emerged really well. Corn started out looking really good. What's unusual about this time of the year is the fact that we're seeing rolling of the leaves this early in the season as the warm temperatures heat up in the afternoon. Our topsoil water levels are definitely being depleted. Tiles aren't running really anymore. Creeks are down. And we planted our corn first and then went into soybeans. And the soybeans, actually, we had to plant at a deeper depth just to get into the moisture, and did struggle with some emergence issues just because there wasn't enough water in the ground to germinate the beans.
Frieders farms in Waterman in DeKalb County. Illinois' newest state budget is official this week. Governor J.B. Pritzker says the $50 billion spending plan showcases his administration's priorities.
We've eliminated our overdue bills. We've paid down $10.5 billion in debt, including pension debt. Our once empty rainy day fund is now rising to $2 billion. Our GDP has surpassed $1 trillion.
No Republicans voted for the budget. They say it's balanced off of gimmicks and should have contained other important items like the Invest in Kids tax break. It's a great resource for Illinois County Farm Bureau members. It's called Link, Local Information, News, and Know-How. It's a digital newsletter dealing with local government issues. One of the subjects in the upcoming June issue will involve property taxes, says Illinois Farm Bureau Director of Local Government Programs, Brenda Matherly.
Our June link, which is a newsletter that we put out that talks about all things impacting at the local level. Our June link newsletter, which goes out to your county farm bureaus electronically, is going to try to do just that. It's going to try to help you understand the assessment, really the bigger funding. How do we fund local government in the state of Illinois, which includes largely property taxes. So through that resource, we've kind of helped provide, or we have provided an article that breaks down how you might read your tax bill. But it is not uniform across the state. Each county might be a little different on how they publish it. So we would always encourage, and it's been a priority for our local government team here at Farm Bureau, to engage with your elected officials. They are really there to help you understand that. Attend county board meetings, or if you're in a commission county, attend your commissioner meetings. School board meetings are a priority if you want to understand property taxes. They are a large consumer of property taxes, and probably you will notice when you open up that bill that the biggest percentage of your tax dollars are going to fund your schools. That's how we're structured in the state of Illinois. So engage with your elected officials, and I think you'll gain a wealth of information over time through them.
You can find the resource at ilfb.org, then type in link in the search box. Lawmakers passed 566 bills through both chambers of the General Assembly in the recently concluded legislative session, all but one of them from May. It sets the table for an approximate 3-month bill signing season for Governor J.B. Pritzker. That's because the state's constitution gives legislative leaders 30 days from a bill's passage to send it to the governor, when he then has 60 days to sign or veto it. If the governor takes no action in that time, the bill becomes law automatically. Historically, the legislature has sent bills to the governor in batches, allowing his staff ample time to review the proposals. Among those, House Bill 3413 streamlines the process through which Illinois returns Native Americans' remains and materials to their communities. In part, it would create a procedure in which the Illinois Department of Natural Resources would consult with affiliated tribal nations when returning remains. The measure was spurred by reporting from ProPublica, which showed the Illinois State Museum has the second largest collection of unrepatriated Native American remains in the U.S. as of as of 2022. The State Museum had only returned 2% of the 7,700 remains it reported to the U.S. government. House Bill 3413 allows the Illinois Department of Natural Resources to establish burial sites for Native American human remains and other artifacts that are close to the public and protected by the state. Additionally, it creates a fund in the state treasury that would be paid into by violators of the act and subject to appropriation to cover costs including reinterments, repatriation, repair, or restoration of human remains. It passed both houses unanimously. One lawmaker voted present in the House. Senate Bill 1886 limits the circumstances under which a judge could order a person to refrain from cannabis and alcohol use and submit to testing while on probation. A judge could still mandate testing if the person is under 21 or was sentenced for an offense that included the use of an intoxicating compound. Testing could also still be required if the person is in problem-solving court or if the person has undergone a clinical assessment that includes alcohol or cannabis testing. Courts could also still require a person to abstain from cannabis and alcohol for 30 days between sentencing and the person's participation in a clinical assessment. The measure would also prohibit a court from banning cannabis use if it is prescribed by a medical professional and from assessing fees for mandatory drug or alcohol testing if the person is indigent as defined in the state law. It passed 75-40 in the House and 31-18 in the Senate. Senate Bill 1782 aims to protect child influencers who are under the age of 16 and featured in at least 30% of money-making internet videos or vlogs published by a family member in a 30-day period. Vloggers who feature children under the age of 16 would be required to keep records of the children's inclusion of vlogs, proof of age, and other documents. If they do not, the child would have a right to sue in civil court. If the vlog reaches a platform's money-making threshold or generates at least 10 cents per view, the vlogger would be required to put a percentage of earnings into a trust fund for the child that is equal to half of the percentage of content that features the child. Percentages differ if multiple children are featured. It passed the House 98-17 and the Senate 57-0. House Bill 2220 gives hotel managers greater authority to remove disruptive visitors from their premises. That includes individuals who refuse to pay, threaten employees, violate laws or posted hotel rules, or use verbally abusive language. The hotel industry pushed for the changes, which also state the removed guest must be refunded for its unused portions of their stay. It also states the language cannot be used to evict long-term residents, or if the area is under a severe weather warning. It also may not be used to discriminate against a guest based on characteristics protected under federal, state, or local law. Hotel managers would be allowed to refuse accommodation to anyone who destroys or threatens to destroy hotel property or who is on the premises for the purpose of providing alcohol to an underage person or possessing a controlled substance. It passed 108-3 in the House and 51-2 in the Senate. Coverage of news is brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton.